how do we plan for a transition to a design system at scale? So they may have something that looks and feels a lot like a design system, but they're starting to think, hey, this needs to start integrating into our other products, into our design products, into our code products, into our documentation products. Where do they start with the planning? Like, where do they begin the process?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of the teams that we talk with are either, maybe launching their first ever sort of central system effort, like to your point, they've got a lot of libraries. They might even have things that some teams think of as the design system or a design system. And then there's others that it's maybe not the first central, but there is sort of a collective improvement play of how do we all get a little more efficient, maybe move towards a more unified version of these different systems, right? Very few are starting from scratch, I think is kind of what I'm getting at. And, how you plan a path to success is a little bit tactical, a little bit about the components and the implementation stuff. It's also a little bit kind of political. Anytime you're trying to do something cross organization, those kind of human elements and relationship dynamics come into play too, right? So the things that we tend to guide folks on are, one, you do need to do the kind of Venn diagram exercise of figuring out what is overlapping where, right? With the general mindset that, hey, there's shared stuff, whether it's the way we do testing and ship code, or it's the button component we use, right? There's commonalities among stuff that we're doing across business units, brands. We got to figure out what that is, right? And that's traditionally an inventory exercise, or, I actually like doing it in a more abstract way with the Venn diagram, almost thinking from scratch, what are the things we should be sharing?
You would do it in like a virtual whiteboard or actual whiteboard and start to map out what these areas of responsibility would be?
Yeah, I think it gives you more flexibility than, inventorying components and taking screenshots. If you're thinking from, get product managers and thinking about what are the common patterns that exist in terms of how we operate or that we need to deliver for our users, right? That level of abstraction, I think, actually enables you to be a little bit more holistic with thinking about what could we share, right? But there's also, something we run into a lot, or C teams run into is, like, even if there's conceptual alignment, there's often not enough motivation to, rise above the noise of everyday delivery for those teams to actually say, yes, we're going to commit the resources to this thing, right? So I have found that there often needs to be some team that's giving the olive branch or saying, hey, we want to help you at the very least maintain the baseline you have today while we take on a little of this burden while we start building towards this shared thing, right? And all of this is very iterative, right? It can't be, we're going to go solve it. We're going to sit in the cave. We're going to do our inventory. We're going to build the new system. We're going to hand it down and everyone's going to be like, oh, finally we have it. No, they're all going to be like, what is this? I got my job to do. I don't, so it's got to be engaging, but you got to make them want to engage and have a reason because we all got a lot of stuff going on. So again, like, have the spirit of, it's got to be, we got to find what could be shared and unified, but also we need to create some motivation, even if that's just, hey, opt into letting us help you, right? So that's where I start.